alcohol free for 1 year. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Joanna, and on this channel I am documenting my progress towards my yearly goals. But very quickly, this channel is also becoming somewhere where I talk about all things productivity, because of course that will contribute towards my goals. And today I want to talk to you about something that I haven't yet talked about on this channel, which is my decision to go alcohol free for 1 year. So I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about my history with drinking and my decision to do this. But before I get into that, I do want to preface that I do not meet the criteria for alcohol use disorder, otherwise known as alcoholism. So that is not the kind of information that I'll be talking about today.
According to the DSM-5, which is the diagnosing standard for mental health professionals, you must meet at least 2 of the following criteria within a 12-month time span to be diagnosed with alcohol use disorder, otherwise known as alcoholism. Feel free to pause the video to read this checklist fully.
But if that is the type of information a very different lifestyle than I was used to. She exposed me to a lot of ideas that I had never been exposed to before. So I started seeing her as kind of a mentor. And this was also a very rough time in my life. So I was looking for someone to emulate. There was one night where she came home and she started making herself dinner. This was a single woman. She was blasting her music and she was making herself some pasta with sausage, and while she was doing this, she poured herself a large glass of wine. And I was just watching her while she was making her dinner, and I was like, she just looks like she's having the best time of her life right now. She's just by herself, making herself some food, having a little drink, and she looks so carefree. And I think it was that night that influenced me to start drinking alone at home. Soon after that, I moved finally to my very own apartment with my daughter. So it was just the two of us. It was the first time we were really on our own. Usually up to this point, I was living with someone. I kind of lived with a few friends for a little bit or with my parents. This was my first real apartment. To celebrate, I did get myself a bottle of wine, and this just became a thing. Like sometimes after work or on the weekend, I would get myself a glass of wine and like watch a movie as a way to kind of unwind. Eventually, wine turned into liquor because usually when I would go out like with my friends, I would have a cocktail. So I started making myself cocktails at home. So that just became the norm. I was definitely at this point very much an occasional drinker. Then I came upon the idea of dry January. So I've been doing dry January for a few years now. And for me, it's a way to kind of reset my body. You know, December tends to be, of course, a social time. You go out and inevitably there are drinks. So I might drink more than I usually do. So I just take January as a time to start again. But it was never anything more than that. It was just kind of the reset. But for some time now, maybe a year or two, it's been in my mind. I've just kind of been truly curious about what would happen if I just gave up alcohol for a year. And it's come up so many times that I'm like, well, why not just do it? This year I started off doing dry January. I had really no intentions of not drinking for the rest of the year, but I mentioned to one of my friends that I was doing dry January, and I told her that I was considering possibly not drinking for the rest of the year. And she's like, well, actually, that's how I ended up being vegetarian for 5 years. She's like, you could just take the first step if it's something that you really want to do. And I think that was the moment when I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna do this. It was mid-January, and one of my triggers, so I actually really lowered my alcohol intake in 2022. This was the year that I quit my teaching job. If you saw that video, you already know I had a very tough time with teaching. In particular, my second year, I started looking for other jobs in October of that school year. So I had no intention of finishing off the school year. And I, for some delusional reason, really thought that I was gonna find something by December. So my belief was that I wouldn't be going back to my teaching job in January. So when January came along and I was driving back to school, that first day of classes, I was so disappointed in myself and I just felt completely deflated. By February, I started thinking, well, I'm already halfway through the year. I might as well stay so that I could get the summer pay. And at that point, you know, at least I won't have broken my contract. So I decided to stay, but I wasn't like truly happy with that decision. So I came to recognize that every day after work, I wanted to come home and have a drink.
I need a drink.
I really started noticing that urge, and really what it was that I was so tightly wound during the day that I just was looking for something to help ease that tension that I was feeling. And my first thought was a drink, a glass of wine. So I was coming home and I would have one glass of wine with dinner, which I think is pretty common. I'm not sure, but it's an idea, I think, at least in America, that we are exposed to. You know, often like on TV or in movies, you see it's very common for people to have a glass of wine with dinner. So I was like, all right, cool, whatever, you know, I'm this person now. So that's what I was doing. But for several years, it has been a motto of mine that I don't want to use alcohol as a way to cope. And this was something that I came up with for myself. I didn't like get it from anyone else. but I didn't have like the language for it. So I saw this movie a few years ago. It's called How Do You Know, with Reese Witherspoon and Paul Rudd. In that movie, Reese's character, she's going through a hard time and she never accepts a drink from anyone because of course that's the first thing they offer her whenever she's feeling some type of way. And eventually she talks about her reason for doing that, and that was because of advice that she received from her father. And the advice was,
You don't drink at all?
I follow my father's rule on drinking.
Which is?
Never drink to feel better. Only drink to feel even better.
That's fantastic.
never drink to feel better, only drink to feel even better. And I was like, that's it, that's exactly it, that's my new motto, because I didn't want to rely on alcohol in moments of distress, because I feel like that's a slippery slope. And that goes for any maladaptive coping mechanism. You have to be very careful, and I try to be mindful about what coping mechanisms that I rely on. So I did start to realize that I was relying on alcohol to make me feel better. So that's when I was like, all right, I gotta cut it out. So I stopped having drinks after work. And one of the things was that sometimes I didn't even want the drink itself. I would pour myself a glass of wine and then I wouldn't even drink it. So that helped me realize that I wasn't actually like craving a glass of wine. I didn't want the taste or anything like that. I was just looking for that thing to make me feel better. So at this point, I really started to ask myself, whenever I felt like I wanted to pour myself a glass of wine or have a drink, why are you wanting to drink right now? Are you just trying to make yourself feel better, or do you actually want to just enjoy a drink? So whenever the answer was that I was trying to make myself feel better, I just wouldn't have to drink. So that's what I basically was doing starting from around February 20. For finally deciding, okay, yes, I definitely do want to do this. So one of those reasons, of course, is if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I'm really trying to focus on my health this year, physically, diet-wise, just in all aspects. And I'm trying to eat as much anti-inflammatory foods as I can. And of course, alcohol is an inflammatory food, so it does cause inflammation in the body. So that was definitely a pro for not drinking. My emotional well-being. So I am someone who has suffered from depression. I still suffer from anxiety. So taking alcohol out of the picture definitely helps with those two things, because as you know, alcohol is a depressant. And something that I already had going for me was the fact that whenever I go out, what I'm talking about is always exclusively dancing. I don't drink, and I used to, and this isn't something that I've always done, but one time I went dancing and I got a glass of wine, and then I started dancing, and I started feeling just horrible because, you know, you're spinning and moving and doing all this stuff, and then the wine, it just was not a good mix. So after that time, I decided I would no longer drink when I would go out dancing because it just didn't make me feel good. And that leads me to my next reason, which is it just saves me money. Money. You know, I haven't had a full-time job since 2022, so it's been 2 years almost. And I really decreased my income like hardcore. So why am I gonna spend it on something like that? I feel like there are a lot better, more productive, more useful things that I could spend my money on instead of alcohol. Another reason is that I have really never considered myself to be a very disciplined person. I grew up with strict parents in certain senses only, but not in the sense that I had to make my bed every day, or I had to clean my room every day or every week even. Like, they just kind of told me to do things in the moment, and that's when I would do them. So I want to use this challenge to really show myself that I do have the ability to tell myself no when need be. I talked about not wanting to use alcohol as a coping mechanism, but I want to use that to help me decide what I do want to use as a coping mechanism. So like 2 times where I really like would have wanted a drink, and I would have gotten one had it not been for me truly deciding like I'm not drinking this year. And that was I think towards the end of January. I don't remember what the reason was. I think I just wanted a glass of wine or something, and it was just like whatever. And then this week, actually, for Valentine's Day, I went to watch the Bob Marley movie with my daughter, and the woman next to me was drinking a margarita, and I just saw her put it in the cup holder, and I was like, that looks good. But that's like anything else. If I see someone eating like a delicious slice of pizza, I'm like, that looks good. So it wasn't anything like overbearing or like where I felt out of control or anything. But I think I might have gotten a margarita that night or since then, had it not been for me deciding again not to drink. So far it's going swimmingly. I'm not struggling at all. Let's see. I have many months to go, so we'll see. I will say that I haven't actually been in any social settings so far this year, so I haven't felt any pressure from anyone to drink. I will be interested in seeing my own reaction really to feeling that pressure. So if I go to like family events and they're like, come on, have a drink. I have one relative in particular who I think will be a little bit pushy. So my game plan for that is to have something in mind, like an automatic response, not necessarily telling them that I'm not drinking at the moment, because automatically everyone's gonna be like, oh my God, are you pregnant? My family's so, you know, drama, which a lot of you might understand, I'm assuming, because that's just how family is. As far as going out with friends, I don't think I'll have any problem with that. My friends are really chill people, so I don't think I'll ever feel any pressure from them to drink. It's more possibly a family thing that might, but I really don't have much family around me anyways, and I don't see them that often, so I really don't see that being too much of a problem. One effect that I already noticed is the fact that I'm relying more on myself, and I'm feeling stronger every day to not depend on alcohol to make me feel better in social situations. So I consider myself very much in the middle. I'm an ambivert, so I'm not too much of a loner, but I'm not like Mrs. Social Butterfly either. I'm very much somewhere in the middle. So only certain types of social situations bother me, or if I'm just like not in the mood. But knowing that I have it in me to get through the situation without relying on alcohol, it just makes me feel better about myself. I'm already feeling good about that, and there's a lot of things that are contributing to that. I'm obviously doing a lot more than just not drinking alcohol to help me get there. I've been steadily going to Toastmasters meetings this year. So far, I'm just feeling good about this whole thing. I'm proud of myself for making the decision. I'm proud of myself for sticking to the decision. And I'm proud of myself for trying to grow. So that is my journey to 1 year of sobriety. I invite you to tell me if any of these reasons resonated with you. Are there any reasons for you that I didn't mention? I'd love to hear about those. And I invite you to join me if this is something that you really have been curious about. If you are so invested that you actually got to the end of this video, I think you have nothing more to think about. Just do it. You really have nothing to lose. If you decide that you do want to continue drinking after a certain point, then go for it. And I am not advising to drink if you know you have a problem with drinking, or if you know that drinking is something that causes major distress in your life. But if you feel like you have a healthy relationship with alcohol and simply enjoy a glass of wine or a cocktail or a beer sometimes, then I personally don't think that there's anything wrong with that, so long as you are doing so responsibly. So in the end, you have really nothing to lose, but so many things to gain. from this experience. So I encourage you to take the leap with me and join me for a year of no alcohol. And if you already had a drink this year, who cares? Just start now. Guys, thank you for watching this video. Please let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you're gonna do it and what your experience has been so far. I'd love to hear from you. And if you like this video, please give it a like, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Thank you guys.